Anu Sehgal from Culture Tree. Thank you so much for being with us on ITV Gold. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Aditi?
Not so bad myself. I'm so glad to finally have you here on ITV Gold to discuss all of the awesome things Culture Tree is doing, educating children of our community. We're just starting this interview. A quick insight into what Culture Tree is and what is program that are happening right now during COVID.
So, the Culture Tree is a cultural literacy organization, and we focus on South Asia. Specifically, we have two pillars. One is dealing with language literacy. So, we focus on languages like Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi. Hopefully, Gujarati will be added soon. And then the second pillar to our organization is really doing cultural programming with museums, libraries, with schools. So we do both these things. And during COVID, there has been two different things that have happened. Our in-person cultural programming has been canceled completely, but our language programs actually have grown because now it's not just limited to the tri-state area. We can basically have kids from all over the US register for our programs.
Right.
And we've moved to virtual learning. So we've made our program, we have adapted our lesson plans, our curriculum to meet that need, because teaching virtually to kids, and especially we focus on the age group, which is elementary kids, elementary school kids, and then also preschool. It becomes a little different because you have to make it more interactive. You have to make it more fun virtually, and then also bring in more visual clues. And our programming with the museums and the libraries have moved to virtual format. So we are doing Facebook Live events. One big thing that happened was I've always wanted to partner and work with authors and musicians all over the world, and now that is happening. We had a Vaisakhi program. It was a Facebook Live event that the consulate hosted for us, and we had there were two authors from the New York area, and then there was one author from Hong Kong who basically did the live event with us. So that is what has started happening with the virtual programs.
So, lots of virtual programs you're doing. You're doing Facebook Live. I know you're also working with the consulate, the Indian consulate here, that we also work with to promote these, cultural literacy programs. Can you describe to me exactly what are you teaching at the current moment? Because a lot of parents will be watching you on ITV Gold right now, and they are trying to sort of assimilate to this new style of online learning, virtual learning, and language programs are very important, especially for our community. So they can get an insight into how it's being run right now, and also what are the resources available for them to educate their children, especially during this pandemic. I think that'll be great.
Yeah. So we have a pretty specific way of developing our curriculum and also lesson plans. And, I've worked with programs, bilingual programs at both NYU and Columbia to really come up with my curriculum. And, my teachers are trained very thoroughly in this program. And so our programs are very theme-based. So we'll come up with a theme. Say the theme is body parts. And we'll basically have sentences that are related to that, and then vocabulary building exercise. And then there is a lot of exchange that happens. So each child has to kind of reiterate and say the sentences, and then they have to talk to the kids that are in the virtual call. So it's actually really fun that way. And as I mentioned, we do like age groups that are starting with elementary, preschool, but then we also have private classes for middle school, high school, and then some adult programs also. The key thing is to really, with the virtual learning, to make it very relevant. And that is one thing we do. We spend a lot of time in making it relevant to the kids that are in America. There are some things that they cannot relate to. So how do we adapt? We have adapted some classic English books. We have adapted some picture books that are very classic American, or English language books, to make it very relevant and interesting, and then weave in the culture very well. Because it's not just language learning, it's also cultural exposure. and, just taking them back to the heritage. There is a lot of homework that comes in with our programs, and some kids do their homeworks with their grandparents in India. So there is that exchange that is also happening because there is a follow through in our language program.
With so much happening in terms of the education system, really going all virtual with most schools ending the academic year also virtually. I'm assuming the similar situation will happen with cultural retreat as well, where you may have to end your academic year virtually. How are the parents responding to this? What are some of the challenges you've seen so far, in the education system, especially with your programs?
So the challenge has been, I have to say, the younger age group. We used to have a lot of preschool kids. And with that age group, it's a very tough situation to, expect the child to sit in front of a monitor and really follow through the Zoom, raising your hand and all that. The parent has to sit. And I think in long run, that is not a feasible model. So I see preschool language learning to really slow down quite a bit. I'm developing, because I'm getting a lot of demand, I'm developing a program in which I will teach the kids, but I will teach through, or my teachers will teach through poems and, stories instead of, exchanges in that age group. But I really do think now that, for elementary, middle school, parents have realized that they don't have to spend 3 hours bringing their kids. And mind you, some of my parents come from Jersey into Manhattan every, weekend for the language class. So once they realize that the quality of learning is actually not that bad, they will stop coming for a certain age group. So I see that happening in future, that for a certain age group, it becomes very, virtual format works for them. Right. And then there is another very interesting thing that happened, and I was like surprised by it. We have a few classes for which cousins, it's like basically cousins all over the US have signed up. So the parents have joined hands, and it's basically cousins classes. One class is based in DC and New York. Another class is a California, New York based class in which cousins are together in classes. And it's just, I didn't even think of it, but it's a very unique angle in which, cousins and siblings are kind of not separated anymore. And it makes it very fun for the child to, be sitting with his best friend or her best friend or cousin and learning the language.
So if I was to ask you how the children, are responding, what are some of their challenges? What are they finding easy with these programs? Their entire experience of virtual learning. What could you tell us about that?
I think the elementary and middle school kids have really, adapted to this format very well. And their schooling is happening on virtual format, on Google Classrooms or Zoom. So the kids have adapted very well. They are, faster and quicker in understanding the ins and outs of these virtual platforms. And they want to experiment. They just love doing it. A part of our each lesson is talking about script or learning the script. And they love using the whiteboard and, showing the words they've learned, the letters they've learned. So I think kids are just very resilient. The key thing is, how do you make them follow through and follow the lesson plan very clearly? And take, initially you can be very prescriptive in what you're teaching, and then tell them, okay, towards the end, we'll let you use a whiteboard, because, they are going through these, all these classes all day long. So, give them a little break also. But I think the kids have been pretty resilient after a certain age group. I just have to caveat that.
As an educator, for the next couple of weeks, what is the focus? And in terms of looking at the future of education, cultural education, or just education in general, what are we looking at in terms of this year, according to you?
So from language education standpoint, I have seen our parents are just having recurring classes because they've had a good start with their kids learning a language, and they're just saying, okay, let's do 2 classes, let's do 3 classes a week. And I'm seeing kids getting very interested, and especially if the classrooms can be customized to their needs, then it becomes even more fun, like cousins being together or friends being together. The second thing is, I think we are bringing in educators or cultural icons from all over the world, and it's just so enriching. I'm just developing an Eid program that will be launched at different museums and libraries, and part of that program was getting a calligrapher, and I have a master calligrapher who is from Iran, and he did a whole segment for us, and he's custom making these printable sheets. And it's just like, I'm telling you, it's like all these enriching experiences that will be available to our kids to learn from, to interact from. So that is the most exciting thing that's happening. I'm also working on another actually program in which there is a Bhil artist. Bhil is a folk artist from India who will be interacting with us and teaching us an art form. And
before social distancing, a lot of these opportunities weren't happening, and it's sort of brought like a collective spirit of the community together, where everyone wants to come and sort of empower children. They want to teach children. What are some of your upcoming events that are coming in the next couple of weeks that we can look forward to?
Yes, so definitely Eid will be a pretty big focus. And also for my clients, it's a very big focus. So we have Hina Khan, who is a Pakistani American author. She's written several books. She has done our interviews. Then, as I mentioned, Taha Al-Hiti, the master calligrapher, is also doing a segment for us. In addition to that, we're working with some artists in India. We're also working with some galleries in developing really unique programming for children. And in addition to that, we also have some chefs that we have tied in with. So we'll be coming in with very, authentic experiences that children can have making, South Asian food or Indian food with these chefs. And then, as I'd mentioned to you, Falu we've been working with Falu. We had an amazing event, a musical event with her. So we'll keep working with Falu on Indian music as well.
I know you have a message here for parents, specifically of ITV Gold, and I would love for you to just share that message out, and also your message out to children, that are still trying to learn how to live in this coronavirus pandemic world, and learn and be educated during that time period. I would love for you to address both of them.
I'll start with a message for children. I really do think this is the time. You guys have some time to really think through and connect with your heritage and your parents' heritage. So this is the time to invest time in that. And Aditi, you talked about resources. We have a lot of resources on our website, so definitely connect with us. It's theculturetree.com. And really take advantage of talking to your grandparents and connecting with them, because in some situations you're not seeing your grandparents if they are somewhere else in the US, or they're in South Asia somewhere. So connect with them and really hear their stories, because we need that social connection. So connect with them on that. And then for the parents, I would say it is very critical to provide our children tools for managing multicultural exchanges from a very young age. And these exchanges don't really happen immediately, but have to be imbibed in your child from a very young age. And, language, dance, music, other activities, and general awareness of culture and country are critical in creating this right foundation. Additionally, I would say having the forum where the entire family can participate in the exchange, makes the whole process very rich. Like I talked about grandparents.
Mhm.
Some of the grandparents that drop kids in our, they used to drop them when we had our classes happening. They just thought that it was such a priceless way of learning about culture and learning about heritage and languages. So my message for the parents net is that, give your children some opportunity to really engage with the culture and to engage with the country of your origin. And I think now is the time, because we are trying to supplement all kinds of literacy and education to our kids. So now is the time to do it.
One last question for you, Anu. What is exciting you in terms of content, in terms of what you want from the culture tree? I think that would be a great way to end this interview.
Yeah, the content, I would say, Aditi, the thing that really excites me is that I can email, I can call people from all over the world. That was something, firstly, I didn't have time to do it. And then secondly, I just didn't have the resources to get them to fly to the US and do these segments and sessions. But that has been, the boundaries are not there anymore. And people are just, especially educators and, authors, they're just very open to giving this chance to children all over the world to learn about their culture and about languages. So that has been, a blessing in disguise, the silver lining, whatever you can call it, that has happened due to the social distancing.